As the days count down to that most rare and magical of dates, a new mainline Pikmin release, the bean counters and bigwigs at Nintendo will be polishing their spectacles to see whether the tiny franchise has what it takes, or whether Shigeru Miyamoto is just leading Nintendo's investors into the jaws of danger. In the coming months we will learn how Pikmin 4 fares, and so we need to know, what does good look like for Pikmin? How high does Pikmin have to climb to escape the whirlpool tug of 10-year gaps and escape into the sunlit uplands of being a reliable, staple title for Nintendo? And in fact, does Nintendo even rely on the same metrics as we do when pondering Pikmin's performance? In this video we're going to look at the 5 indicators that will influence Nintendo's decision-making process and analyse how Pikmin is positioned with regards to each of them. Now the first one is sales. Of course, this is the most important and famous metric you may think, although as we'll discover, it might not be quite as important to Nintendo as some of the others. Pikmin 3 Deluxe's 2.23 million sales as of December 2021 has almost certainly now been superseded. It's very difficult to say exactly what the current numbers are, but let's take 3 million as a round number. Does this mean that 3 million sales is the bar to clear? Pikmin 3 Deluxe was a port of an old game, whereas Pikmin 4 is a brand new title. The Switch install base is significantly bigger now, as Pikmin 4 is being launched, than when Pikmin 3 Deluxe was launched back in 2020, and so in theory its sales potential is higher. But then again, potentially Pikmin 4 has less long in the sun on a current console to sell, and it's the second Pikmin game on the system, so in effect it's competing against itself, or at least another version of the same franchise. Anyone who tried and was unimpressed by Pikmin 3 is unlikely to be swayed again by Pikmin 4, I would have thought. Now I think Pikmin 4 can undershoot 3 million and still be successful. Nintendo commissioned this game and shepherded it through development knowing exactly how well Pikmin 3 Deluxe sold. What they need to see now is not necessarily that the game can pile on masses of extra customers, although that would be nice, but to see that it can hold up and develop a steady audience. If between 2 and 3 million people regularly and reliably turn up to each new Pikmin game, as evidenced by the sales of 2 consecutive Pikmin releases on the same system, I think it will meet sales expectations, especially as remakes, remasters and NSO ports make all of these games potentially much more profitable in the ultra long term anyway. Anything on top of that is obviously gravy for Nintendo, but really other metrics are coming into play when deciding Pikmin's potential. So let's look at number 2, cost. It's impossible to say with certainty exactly which games cost most to produce for Nintendo. Not only are Nintendo notoriously secretive, but because they're a large organisation, they can have people float between different projects, and so the lines are probably quite blurry. It's not clear to me that even Nintendo themselves could give precise accounting for individual games, since there's no reason for them to track information like that, although I'm sure smaller periodic costs such as hiring support studios for games or extending development windows will receive more accounting scrutiny. One thing is for sure, Pikmin 3 had a relatively small team. It's difficult to tell exactly how many people were on the game throughout, but there are less than 100 people credited. Fire Emblem Engage and especially Xenoblade Chronicles 3 have hundreds, and even setting aside the costs of voice acting, the difference is striking. Question is though, which franchises sell better? Well honestly, Pikmin's numbers, the low numbers of millions, are pretty much in line with the kind of ballpark figures you'd expect from Xenoblade and Fire Emblem. And there's another win for Nintendo, which is that while Fire Emblem is co-owned with Intelligent Systems, they have exclusive rights to Pikmin. Of course, this co-ownership has drawbacks as well. Someday I hope to do a video drilling into the ownership situation of a number of Nintendo's core franchises, but right now we need to talk about number 3. Franchise engagement. I don't just mean hitting the like button on Nintendo forecasting videos, although now I think about it, that's a really good idea and you should do that. I don't even mean game engagement, although evidently with its playtime statistics, Nintendo can now find out which of its games are more heavily played, which ones are more likely to bring in new players, which ones keep lapsed players coming back and so forth. I'd love to get a peek behind that curtain, as I suspect these analytics would paint a very different picture about the relative value of some different game franchises. But no, I don't just mean engagement with one game, I mean people's engagement with the whole Pikmin franchise. as Nintendo never tires of reminding us they are first and foremost an entertainment company. One game is just one game, but Pikmin has so much broader potential appeal. Indeed, between animated shorts, a mobile game, and cameos at Nintendo World, Pikmin has already been a lot more diversified in the way it's used than some other Nintendo franchises, even much bigger ones. Now, I would be disappointed, of course, if the Pikmin franchise became a train of milquetoast spin-offs and cameo features, but I think that's to misunderstand Nintendo's strategy. The games and the other entertainments exist synergistically. The games promote Nintendo's other activities, while the other activities feed back into the games. Even if the support doesn't go back specifically to Pikmin, keeping people engaged with Nintendo and its content is of huge value, and these colourful mascot characters just give another string to Nintendo's bow. Perhaps they might once again try an animation, or perhaps they'll figure out a way for Pikmin Bloom to go viral, or maybe something completely new is in the future. Either way, Pikmin is an entertaining franchise, and I think Pikmin 4 is just one expression of that. And of course, while sales show breadth of interest, engagement statistics like who logs in daily to Pikmin Bloom and who has over 100 hours in Pikmin 3 show depth of engagement. 100 people who buy Pokemon Scarlet, play it for a bit and get bored, well, I'm sure Nintendo is grateful for their cash. But 10 people who buy Pikmin 4 and play it loads and loads, well, those people have a longer, deeper, richer engagement with Nintendo content, and that has a value of its own. However, there is another vital factor that Nintendo will consider when evaluating the success or failure of Pikmin 4, and that is number 4, potential. Potential is difficult to define, but Nintendo has the ability to stick with franchises for a very long time, far longer than it seems like they should need to, in order to really explore an idea. There were periods when Xenoblade Chronicles, Fire Emblem, Metroid and others were all bubble titles, their futures, certainly in the West, uncertain. Nintendo can long game this out. Because they are notoriously fiscally cautious, they are in a position where they can wait potentially for decades for something they develop to bear fruit. If they believe Pikmin has potential that has not yet been reached, it's not a surprise if they want to keep developing the franchise, albeit as a secondary or even tertiary consideration compared to their more evergreen titles. The flip side of this is a game like F-Zero, where Miyamoto has commented himself that he's not quite sure what new thing there is to do if they made another new F-Zero game. If Nintendo has a clear idea for a bold new take on a game franchise that justifies creating a new title, they will make that new title because the potential is worth it to them to explore. And of course that potential could be outside video games. Pikmin plush toys, card games, garden ornaments, films, television shows, books, board games. There could be many other expressions of the potential of the Pikmin series. Again, as with the spin-offs such as Bloom, this doesn't necessarily threaten the core titles, but encourages new gamers to discover them as part of their general experience with Pikmin. And all of this includes potential for strong reviews. Pikmin games are usually very positively received, and look, good reviews won't balance anyone's books, but they don't hurt either. And as much as Nintendo can feel diffident and aloof at times, their joy at winning the Game Awards in 2017 shows they do care and they take prestige seriously. Pikmin is not a widely known game, but it is well regarded and is part of a patchwork of consistently highly reviewed quality games that go to make up Nintendo's reputation for excellence. A game that reviews poorly could have a much more detrimental effect on a franchise than one that sells badly. Metroid Other M being perhaps an example of a game that did both and sank the Metroid franchise for a good half decade. Was it really the poor sales that did for Other M, or the bad reviews? It sold badly, but Metroid Prime 3 wasn't a huge seller either, despite releasing at a much more successful period of the Wii's life. My hunch is that if Other M were a well-received game that tanked, they would have looked to find value in it elsewhere. Nintendo is terrific at upcycling games to make money on them later. The Switch is brimming with ports and remasters of titles that failed at first. Heck, their gigaton seller, Mario Kart 8, started out as a Wii U title and was rescued because people knew it was a good game. Kyoto are famous for their craftsmen, and I do think there is a strong seam of that craftsman's ethic at Nintendo. They believe they are crafting brilliant things, and that craftsmanship means that the acclaim of their peers and community means at least as much as other metrics because it reinforces the overall value of the company as an organisation that makes reliably excellent games. But before we skip over to 5, if you, like me, feel there's untapped potential for this channel to keep growing, please do whack a cheeky like on this video. I would really appreciate it. Number 5 then. Here is the big one, and it's a big risk for Pikmin in some ways. Opportunity cost. This term in economics means the cost of the opportunity you missed out on. And Pikmin 4 is expensive in opportunity cost terms. The same team that makes Pikmin makes 2D Mario. Which game would sell more? Any Pikmin game or any 2D Mario? Exactly. Why should Nintendo prioritise Tiny Pikmin over almost anything else that has the potential to be a bigger breakout hit? However, there is a solution to this, which is to find development partners outside EBD to shoulder some of the burdens. I'm not going to go into it much further now though, because if you haven't seen the video on screen, this is one that I produced earlier which delves into Nintendo's relationship with Japanese studio 18 and the potential for it to lead to much bigger things in the future of Pikmin video games. Please check it out. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care. Goodbye.